Pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Tonight, we have a variety of hot topics that includes a lot of stuff. But before I get into our hot topics, let me just say here that there was a young lady that walked into my office yesterday to inquire as to what she needs to do to become a marine pilot in Nassau Harbor. I'm not going to call her name. She indicated that she has been through a variety of training programs. She was a Maritime Cadet Corps person. She went on to Holland College in Canada and did her 6-month reading, forming part of a navigation watch series. She went on to LJM Maritime Academy and she did a series of 2 to 3 year training there. And she took it one step further. She went to the Caribbean Maritime University in Jamaica. And she topped off by getting her degree in marine transportation, a maritime degree. That's a bachelor's degree in maritime. Now she's just standing by and waiting to be interviewed, should I say, tested or by the Bahamas Maritime Authority in order to attain her license as an officer forming part of a navigation watch internationally. That's any size ship anywhere in the world. She can serve as a deck watch officer. These are the basic roads to take when you want to be a professional maritime seafarer. Now this young lady, I don't know how she found, well, I know how she found me. Somebody who knew that I was engaged in a similar track and also in maritime pilotage called me and asked me if it was okay to give the lady my number. She called me and we made arrangement to sit down and just go through where she's at, what she need to do to move forward. And she doesn't only want to be a marine pilot in Nassau Harbor, because we have a litany of seafarers that would love to be a marine pilot in Nassau Harbor, in Freeport Harbor, and anywhere in the Bahamas. Everybody knows that as a marine pilot you make a good salary, eh? And most marine pilots, especially the ones in Nassau Harbor, would eventually merge into becoming millionaires. So of course, this young lady, along with most young people who are in the maritime industry, especially in the deck department, they all want to become marine pilots at some stage of the game. I did for many years. I was a pilot apprentice for 21 years before I finally and eventually got, and by default I guess, got my appointment as a marine pilot. And you know, I want to tell it ain't all of that. But you can't tell people it ain't all of that when that's their dream, that's their goal. So I wouldn't do that. And I just advise her, you know, to become a pilot. First of all, you got to qualify yourself in the maritime industry. Now she's doing that. And I asked her, I say, young lady, you have any desire to become a master mariner? Because that's an easy foot in the door. Bahamas don't have master mariners. I mean, we got 2. Well, we got 3 or 4 now. But I know the 2 that were long standing for 30, 40 years were Dwayne Hutchinson, who's now the director of the Maritime Authority, and my good friend Macarius Roll, who works in Freeport at South Riding Point as the chief pilot there. They were the only 2 formally trained master mariners, that are dead Bahamians, that is. You may have some little people, Bahamians, who got master mariner back in those days, the other color fellas. But these were the two that went off to Scotland and did what they had to do based on scholarships and all. Much as got money. So they were able to acquire their master mariner certification. And I always speak about them because I'm so proud of them. But here is a young lady who is about to, if she is successful in the examinations the oral examinations and all the rest of that she would have done to take from the BMA, she would have a officer to watch. And I asked her, I said, do you know how long it takes to become a master mariner? And she don't know, but she have an idea. And I told her she need to get friendly with the STCW code that determines what are the details to become from an officer in charge of navigation watch to a chief mate. And what are the details to become from a chief mate to a master mariner? And once you see the amount of sea time you got to do, serving in the capacity of officer to watch, then you'll have an idea how long it may be before you become a master mariner. And after you become a master mariner, it doesn't end there. Because you could be a master mariner, but you've never captained a ship in your life. And I believe that our good friends, Dwayne Hutchinson and Macarius Roll, would have been just that. They'd never been the captain of a ship while they were master mariners. Mind you, they serve as chief mate on I think, coastal vessels, cargo vessels. But based on my understanding, and I know them very well, they're my boys, they have never been the captain of a ship. See, because you can be on a cruise ship as a master mariner. As a matter of fact, in Finland and some other countries, you're not going to even go on board a cruise ship, even to be a second mate or third mate, until you are a master mariner, because in their schools, you're a master mariner when you leave that institution. But you never captain a ship. You never even been a chief mate or served as a chief mate on board a ship. Because you got to go now, you got to learn. You got to go to sea, and guess what? You become a pilot today, you're a marine pilot. But you haven't done it by doing the sea time to sail to become chief mates and become master mariner and all that. And you just go on a university and you got your officer to watch. And once you got that, you decide you go wake ashore, and then you go apprentice to be a pilot, and you become a pilot. And it happened that way too. We have a lot of people who didn't do deep sea, but they pilots. But guess what? There are times when they catch hell, because when it's really rough and you get on board that ship. I remember these marine pilots go on board these ships. They don't just stay in a boat and tell the ship follow me. They have to actually be placed on board that ship. They got to climb that pilot ladder. They got to walk sometimes 10 flights of steps to get to the bridge of a cargo ship. And then the weather's rough. So that big ship, I want you to know these big ships are tiny things when it comes to rough oceans. Because you're in the ocean when you go on the ship now. You can't let the ship come in shallow water and then try to get on it. You got to be in the ocean. So you got to go there for 2 or 3 miles. Get on board that ship. And when you reach that bridge, the captain is so happy. Everybody's so happy because now they can hardly see past all that water crashing on their windshield. Right? So they're looking at the road and they say, well, we know the harbor over there somewhere. But pilot, oh my goodness, when that pilot reach, they don't need to hear, Captain, I'm tired. Well, you ready to go to the bathroom to vomit because you're used to this kind of sea. So even coming out there was a problem for you. Now you're on this ship. You're only used to these big ships going up and down with you, and you are the person they're depending on to get that ship from the ocean to the pier alongside a port facility where they tie up the ship, and then they'll call you back when it's time to leave, next couple hours or next day. So being a pilot is not like going to be a doctor, going to be a lawyer, chartered accountant. No. Being a pilot, you got to prepare your body physically and mentally And of course, you got to go through the apprenticeship period where you learning about your harbor, you know what's going on. But you don't want to reach on that ship, and because you didn't go deep sea, you are ready to vomit and seasick, and you can't bring the man ship in. No. So she and I had a very candid talk, and I can tell you today, dear listener, we got a lot of people that came through our system in this country. People like Captain Vimal Black. People like Captain Avalou Williams. People like even people like Edens Taylor. These are people who have been out there in the roughness of the seas and will not be seasick. And they have a lot of experience. And once they are put in a pilot apprenticeship program, they will become some of the best pilots there could be because they have the background and the experience. And a lot of times we say, boy, so-and-so is a good pilot. Boy, so-and-so is a good pilot. Yeah, they may be good pilots under the circumstances. But if the real individuals that should have been given that opportunity, we got a slew of Bahamians who qualified themselves and were captains on board the Marine Tanker Fleet. I don't think they name Marine Tanker today, but everybody knows who's Marine Tanker Fleet, eh? Those ships that go from Clifton Pier to various family islands to carry fuel to the family islands from Clifton Pier, because it's a big, big ship that's come to Clifton Pier. There's no other port facility in this country other than in Freeport and Clifton Pier where big tankers can go in and be accommodated. So the big tankers bring the thousands of barrels of fuel, and if you go to Clifton Pier, you will see the storage capacity for those facilities out there. And we're talking about sun oil and Sol petroleum and Rubis, and well, we get gas for Caribbean gas, and those are the type of storage capacities for this country. Well, of course, most of it is used for what? For BEC, for BPL. Nowadays, I'm getting a little old. I still say BEC. But BPL is right out there. They use a lot of that right out there. But gas stations are so big, long truck, what they call them? Tanker trucks. Yeah, they got to come Clifton Pier to fill up, and then they go uptown to give gas stations fuel. Gas stations don't get fuel directly from ships. So again, these big ships gotta be bought and let in, whatever. But the men who serve as their hands, under the watch, chief mate, and captains on board those marine tanker vessels that service the family islands, big boats. Yes, they coastal freighters, but they're big. Those guys. Okay, pardon us. Okay, my producer trying to fix me up here. I don't know how clearly you all was hearing me, or I might have been shouting that much, but my producer just got me fixed up. So I go on. Yeah, those guys that served as captain and mate and officer of watch on board those marine tanker ships, they are perhaps the best seafarers Bahamas produces as far as preparing men and women, because my daughter used to work on one of those ships. I got a couple of daughters who worked on Lorna Maxis, who's now a pilot in the port of Freeport, unlimited pilot, female, bringing any size ship into Freeport Harbor. She worked with marine tankers, so she gotten her feet wet pretty early in the game, eh? She's not going to go on a ship and say, "Oh, I'm seasick." No, yeah, of course she's a woman. You expect women to get seasick. At least we know most women who go on boats get seasick, right? But don't look at Lorna and thinking she can get seasick, because she been through the trenches and did what she had to do. So to be a pilot, you want to get your feet wet. And once you start getting your feet wet and you're getting the certification to serve as captain, because you're not, for you to become a captain on a regular international cargo ship, you're looking at 15 years minimum. Yeah, because they make captains after captains retire. And they don't just make you captain at a very young age. No, you're going to be like in your mid-30s, 40, if you are fortunate. Some people don't become captains on those big ships until they're in the 50s. But neither here nor there, you need to go out deep sea, come back, and we need to get the cream of the crop to be pilots, because if you go and you qualify yourself to become a master mariner, that's almost impossible for the port department and the Minister of Transport and the Port Authority Board to say to you, we can't find any space here for you because we're not taking on pilots. No, that's kind of impossible for somebody with a master mariner certification. And I beg to, anybody who believe I'm not so right on that, I've been in the business for a while, please feel free to call in and let's get on. So I said to the young lady, I said, you have the passion. Now what you need to focus on is going out there and certifying yourself, getting some deep sea experience and all the rest. In the meantime, you can find a way to apply to be an apprentice. I don't know if you're going to get through. You know the word is out there. I knew it from the time I was on Defense Force. Oh, it's almost impossible to get into this pilot thing, man. They give it to the kids and the buddies and you got to be in the clique to get in there. And many sea captains can tell you this, because this is true. And you know why? I'll tell you why, dear listener. It is this way with the Nassau Harbor pilot situation. Simply because the New Providence Port Authority, that's what they call the Port Authority Board, they do not get involved. And if you read the Port Authorities Act, it tells you that the New Providence Port Authority is supposed to select approved pilot apprentices so that the minister could consider making people pilots. But you know what happens? First of all, the pilot's got to take you on as an apprentice. And usually they will tell you, no, we're not taking in anybody right now. But that's their way of protecting it for who they want. Eh? But it shouldn't be up to them. Because once that pilot apprentice is selected by the Port Authority Board, the Port Authority Board will tell the pilots, we have selected 2 apprentices. You all need to sign them up and start. And then the port controller kicks in and ensures that the apprenticeship is done up for these apprentices. And then they're in the system because they were found to be the most suitably qualified at that time to become a pilot apprentice. How do people become pilot apprentice today for the Port of Nassau? You want me to tell you? You just need to know one of the pilots or be affiliated with them somehow and get their good graces, and they make you an apprentice. The Port Authority Board have nothing to do with it. The port controller has really what to do is once he see the documents made up, he just arrange with customs so you get on the ship, because he's not going to go against the pilots either. Eh? But if we look at the law, and we realize how this thing's supposed to happen, and I had to do it over and over again. I know every detail. But I went into all that with this young lady because I don't want to discourage her. I just told her, we will see, you need to see the port controller. You need to make an arrangement to speak with the Nassau Harbor Pilots Association persons there. And you need to make an arrangement to appear before the New Providence Port Authority. But before you do any of that, find out what the law says and how the law applies to pilot apprenticeship. Don't go on there not knowing. You need to know. Now, I challenge over and over again. I can tell you, boy, sometimes it's very difficult, but if that's your passion, you got to do that. Okay, that's how we open the show tonight. Anybody want to call in about how pilots apprentices could be given opportunities, Nassau, Freeport, or anywhere else? I will be happy to engage you. Now let's get on to our real topics for tonight. Not scratched 10% of fly fishing potential. This was the headlines in the newspaper. You know, I only need to go to the newspaper and see what they said about Maritime. Now, it read, the Bahamas has not even scratched 10% of the fly fishing industry's economic potential. we haven't reached to 10% of what we could be making. I think we probably even reach 5%, right? So we have my good friend and brother, Mr. Prescott Smith, who is the current president of the Fly Fishing Industry Association. He suggested that the Bahamas is losing out on billions of dollars in fly and bone fishing revenues. So it's so much money we could be making, but we just not setting up to make this money. And he went on to say that how we could have, it's a niche area, so we could have a niche group in the Ministry of Tourism, just targeting people. But you know, most of these people know how, they know where, we have a lot of fly fishing and bone fishing people in the world. They know where most of these things are. They just need us to set it up so that when they come, they don't have to be trying to reinvent the wheel to be able to go and do these things on rickety equipment and all the rest of that, right? So what my good brother Prescott is saying is we're losing a lot of money. He is now pushing for a national training program to get a whole new generation of bone fishing and fly fishing guides into the industry. He's suggesting that we don't have enough. There's room for many, many more. But is the government focusing on training these younger people? You could start from high school level. You could start from BTVI level. Training these young people how to bone fish, how to fly fish, and how to deal with people as far as dealing with them on a one-on-one basis when they take them out to fish. Because people's skills is necessary too, eh? Bahama host may be good enough for that. We may have to take it into a little further than just Bahama host. But my good brother Prescott is suggesting that we need to start not just a training program, a national training program. That's family islands as well. And you ain't get much family island young men who don't know how to go and bone fish, right? They may not know much about fly fish, but they certainly can know about bone fishing. And the training for them may be a little less stringent than needs to be for the fellow who come out of Nassau and never been on a bone fish flat in his life. So we got to get it together, eh? Mr. Prescott Smith is saying to us that Belize, the country Belize, in the, what you call that, Central American region, Belize has transcended from having about 12 fly fish guides 2 decades ago. So 20 years ago they had about 12. Because there ain't much people used to be going, and there ain't much of them to know about bone fishing. Right? And now they boast over 1,000 bone fishing guides and fly fishing guides in Belize. While we are in the Bahamas only got about 400. Despite the fact that Belize only have about 1/10 the area in terms of fishing grounds for bone fishing and fly fishing. We got flats bigger than anywhere else in the world. And if you look at the map of the Bahamas, you'll see all those shrubbery areas and shallow waters. And not much countries got that. That's where bone fish hang out. That's where flying fish is do best in. So what Brother Prescott is saying basically is, look, Mr. Government, let's start a national program for fly fishing and bone fishing, because we only scratching the surface. Why don't we get serious about this thing and really start making some leaps and bounds? We can't be letting Belize leave us this far behind, eh? They got from 12 to over 1,000 in 20 years, and they only got 10% of the fishing flats that we have. Come on, people. Prescott, I'm with you, my brother. Always, as you know. I know your fight. I love your fight. Let's keep fighting, my friend. They had another headliner that a shipper from Andros, he's claiming that he exceeded every financial projection that he had when he got the mortgage for his vessel. So, what we mean by that? In the summer of 2021, he got a good financial backing and through the Small Business Development Center. And he bought a vessel. And today, which is 2 years later, Mr. Valentino Monroe from Central Andres Shipping claims that he has beaten every financial projection that he predicted. He claims that his company is experiencing phenomenal growth. You notice phenomenal? He's just growing. Phenomenal growth. With their flagship vessel, the Captain Prince, which is a ro-ro cargo ship 196 foot long. Of course, just below 500 gross tons. And it's important for that to be below 500 gross tons. And that way I talk too much about that, right? Because if you go over 500 gross tons and you go international, you're a solar ship. You got to meet all the solar requirements. Under 500 gross tons, you just need to be a Caribbean Code ship. You meet the Caribbean Code standards, which is far less stringent than the SOLAS requirements, or safety of life at sea requirements for ship going to sea internationally, right? So he has the right kind of vessel, and he's only doing the Florida Bahamas. You want to do the Florida Bahamas trip. Currently now, he's servicing the entire island of Andres. So he's doing 3 trips per week. 1 to North Andres, 1 to Central Andres, 1 to South Andres. So he's busy. And he's not the only vessel doing Andres. We got a litany of vessels doing Andres. So as Andres grow, and the need for shipping, because most things are shipped by sea, over 90% of stuff, all the furniture, and most of the crabs, come on, stuff coming back and forth, eh? When you're talking about Andres. Because we send plenty of crabs to Nassau. I say Andres, man, I can tell you. So he's actually doing 3 weekly routes. Oh, we got a phone call. Boy, y'all didn't give me a chance to roll in with this. But anyway, we'll take the phone call and see where we go with it. Good night, caller. You're on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for calling.
Well, you invited your callers to start calling in early.
Yeah, man. I'm Jerome. What's happening, my friend?
Hey, it's been a while. How you doing, my friend?
Man, look, it's so good to hear your voice. It has been a while. Yeah, well, you see, I ain't started running hot yet, but getting a little warm.
I've been extremely busy in the past few weeks during the night time. That's why I wasn't able to call into the show.
Yeah, you told me you was doing some stuff.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Now, one quick thing before we go on to your topics there, because I want to touch both of those you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Looks like your prediction with this war in Ukraine was wrong, eh?
In what way?
And Russia's losing big time.
Where are you getting that information from? we may be getting different feeds. All of my feeds are saying that I think the US and the UK and them are they considering that there ain't nothing else they could do to try and help Ukraine, because
on the battlefield Russia is losing. That's what I'm getting at. Just actual war itself, not the But I just thought I'd mention that.
Okay, you'll mention, but me and you can talk about that off air.
Exactly, yeah.
I got a lot of things to tell you that to show you that they're not.
We'll get on to your 2 issues here.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about the Nassau Harbor pilot, or the piloting in sector in the maritime industry here.
Yes, sir.
I have a suggestion, both for the bone fishing guides and harbor piloting.
Mm-hmm.
Could the Defense Force Cadet Corps not be a feeder or a training ground for young Bahamians who want to get into those aspects of the marine industry here?
Actually, the Defense Force Cadet program is not geared toward you got to remember that Defense Force persons don't know much about maritime. They know about patrol boats. They know about Navy. They know about they're not even certified to be taking a ship out to sea.
But see, what I'm thinking is, could that not be something that could be introduced to the Defense Force as a part of an overall strategic plan, so that the Defense Force can actually broaden its influence in the country by training, from the discipline point of view, training Bahamians about the sea, and then once they have that basic knowledge about the sea, the do's and the don'ts on the sea in the Bahamas by way of the Defense Force, they can then graduate up to the harbor piloting if they want to go that way, or even yachting if they want to go that way, and or fly and bone fishing if they want to go that route.
You are absolutely correct, Jerome.
Yeah.
But let me take you a step further on that.
Mm-hmm.
We have what you call a Maritime Cadet Corps.
Oh, I did.
Thousands of students.
Okay.
Oh, I can tell you. Every year they have a couple hundred graduating out of that group, and they target students from grade 10 through 12.
Mm.
So you join at grade 10, so you do 3 years of Maritime Cadet Corps. And a lot of those students, just like this young lady that I spoke to yesterday, they go on after they graduate into Holland College. And then they go on now to LJM, Maritime School, which is right there on Silver Key. They from there, they could either go into, because when they leave there, they qualified. And some of these people who went through LJM are second mates on cruise ships right now.
By the way, when you mentioned Silver Key just now, that's on the what side of
Silver Key is where what we used to call before Atlantis come and knock them out. That's where
Black Bear?
the water underwater observatory.
Yeah. What
we used to call that?
I know what you mean. I can't remember it either.
And then Atlantis came around and knocked them down. But that was that is where the Lowell J. Mortimer or LJ Academy is set up right now. And they put out hundreds of students every year.
Okay.
And they do
How long
very
is the
well.
training program over there?
They have different, according to what you're going to do. If you're going to be an officer, of course, it's a 3-year program.
See, the reason I mentioned the Defense Force as a feeder program is because, as you know, having been on the Defense Force, as I've learned from you and others, they train you in aspects of discipline.
Well, the maritime field in general causes you to become disciplined if you're serving on board ships.
Well, true enough.
Yeah, that's not missing from the commercial maritime sector. But I agree with you that the Defense Force and not only should Defense Force through their Maritime Cadet Program, Defense Force, in my opinion, and I mentioned this to Commodore King and a couple other senior persons in Defense Force, especially the ones that were around when I was there, that before they put you on a ship, a 200-foot ship, they should ensure that you have the commercial certification, because it's easy for Defense Force people to get. When I went to get my commercial certification, it was like a refresher course, because I knew all the stuff based on my training in England. I did all the celestial navigation and the coastal navigation and the radar observing. We do all those things in Defense Force. So it's not like they are not able to get. It's just that let me tell you what the Jamaican Coast Guard does, right? Which is our brothers or our sister, however you look at it. In military, I remember Admiral Brady. Peter Brady. I knew him very well. He and I are very close, right? Because when I went into the IMO and all that, he was actually the chairperson of one of the committees at IMO. Eventually, he moved into commercial maritime, right, for his country, because he was the director of his authority that registered ships. And what he did is he would allow those officers, once they had interest, to go into maritime studies, and he would give them time off with pay to go to sea. And the pay would be augmented based on what the ship is paying them. And if there was a disparity, he would make up the difference and make sure they continue to meet their needs at home while they're at sea sailing to become commercialized as master mariners. And they had a few of them became master mariners in the Jamaican Coast Guard.
See, what I
there are one or two people who tried in the defense, and I know them because they came to me, we talk.
Right.
And they were just being given stumbling blocks and stops in the way, and it's a bunch of foolishness.
What I'm basically getting at, Glenn, here is, and they obviously must do it at the Bahamas Maritime Association or whatever the proper name is there over at Silver Key and at the Defense Force. But what I'm concerned about is too that a lot more of us Bahamians, especially the young people, and or those who are misbehaving, go out there and learn about the geography of this country, go out there and learn about how to navigate throughout the islands of this country, so that whether or not they get into any area of the maritime industry in the Bahamas, that they at least would have an appreciation and a knowledge for their own country. I think in terms of national service, and that's what I'm alluding to, actually.
You are absolutely correct, and that could be readily done on a voluntary basis, just like how the Maritime Cadet Corps is voluntary, just like how the Defense Force cadet program is voluntary. These same people could be channeled into those areas you're talking about, and at the end of the day, all of them would understand how to navigate their country.
Because, Glenn, having gone throughout this entire country being on the Defense Force, the majority of our country is water, so just about every Bahamian should know
exactly
about what the marine life on the surface and under the surface in regards to the Bahamas. Because, I mean, my God, man, how could we be living in a country and so many, a country full of water, and so many of us don't really know really what the water is all about in terms of its benefit and its opportunities?
Because we don't have programs, JT.
I know, that's the problem right there.
Not only for programs for navigating vessels, they don't even have programs for swimming in the public schools.
Well, you hitting one of the.
They don't even have programs for sailing.
That's the major.
They don't even have programs for fishing. Come on, man. This is what Brother Prescott Smith is alluding to.
Yes, and that brings me to my next point.
We need to spread this thing out so that we can capture this money.
Yeah. Have you ever had him on your show, Prescott?
Prescott has never been on my show. Prescott and I go way back to the Defense Force days. I mean, he's a very good friend of mine.
I know. I've known him since 2002, since 2000 actually. So I was privileged to stay at his lodge down there.
Yeah, he and I were in the Defense Force in the 80s together, and I can tell you he's good people. He's good people, man.
What I'm asking you, and he indeed is one of the top sons of the Bahamian soil, definitely.
Thank you very much.
What I wanted to say to you, the reason I asked about him is, it would be good if you can bring him on your show as a guest sometime if he is willing, because the man has such a depth of knowledge regarding the bone fishing industry, the actual and the potential benefits of the country. Because I've heard him and others say that you can watch the big ships, or the big yachts rather, out there in the back of Andros, on the western side of Andros, doing their thing. They're bringing in people all the time, and the Bahamas ain't getting no revenue from it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how it's set up.
Yeah, it is utterly ridiculous. With all due respect to those out there who's doing it, the way we are doing it in this country as a people is ridiculous. We should never be allowing non-Bahamians to come into this country and take resources out of this country, and then do not pay for that privilege. Especially if they're charging $10,000 a trip or per person, depending on the type of a vessel they're running. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. Well, I'll try to get PI. I mean, he's always welcome to come on the show anytime.
If you could invite him, I would imagine he would love to come on and share what he knows.
Show quite often, because it gives me feedback quite a few times. So I can tell you that he's quite aware of what's going on here.
Right. And in conclusion, then I would say that as far as the overall the harbor piloting aspect of it goes, and I'm only going to ask this question out of curiosity.
Be very careful, because I'm a victim of that group.
Oh, I'm going to be very careful, man. I ain't going to get you no hot water.
No, I ain't get hot water, man. I just run over hot water.
Oh, I ain't going to rub no skin off your nose, man. I got you bad, buddy. What I'm curious to know, though, is, have we ever had any accidents in the Bahamas because of the lack of pilots or bad piloting training in the Bahamas? Have we ever had any ships run aground coming into the harbor under Bahamian pilotage and had an accident?
We've had quite a few accidents, I can tell you. Not only in Nassau Harbor and Freeport Harbor as well.
Well, in the Bahamas.
And worldwide. But I can tell you that if you look at the percentage, it's 0.00001.
Obviously.
Because you got to remember, these guys are bringing in 12 ships every day.
No, I understand.
We have a very, very good record, but yes, there have been accidents.
Yeah, I was only curious about it.
Yeah. Well, it's not a perfect system, but it's a very good system.
Right.
I can vouch for that.
Thanks for your time, good buddy.
Yes, Brother Jerome, and thanks for calling, man. Always keep in touch.
Okay.
All right. It's my good friend Jerome Thompson. Oh, we got another line on, producer. It's another one blinking. 3. Good evening, caller. You are on Maritime Matters Live, and thank you so much for calling.
What's happening, Cap?
All is well, my friend. All is well. How you doing, man?
Wonderful.
You ain't called
me
for a little while.
I was just observing, your conversations tonight, and I really agree with you, Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Bain, and I'm Bain, right?
Captain Glenn Bain, yeah.
Yeah, Glenn. I agree with you. What we need to do, and JT to a certain extent, we need to really get a lot more seagoing courses and programs into our high schools.
Oh yeah.
You understand?
That's right.
Start fly fishing programs and stuff like that,
There's a lot of capacity for that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because we got tons of cruise ships now docking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Here under the Bahamian flags, and the lady that wants to be a pilot,
yeah,
man, she could probably vie for a position on one of them cruise ships with the qualifications she got.
Yeah, but more than likely she's going. Do you know? She's just one of many. Even ladies, we got 2 ladies, and probably more than 2, who are serving on cruise ships as what do you call second mate.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to be a chief mate eventually, and then they want to be cruise ship captains, and these ladies are on a track where they can become cruise ship captains. They're not going to be the first, but they're going to be the first Bahamians.
Yeah, because piloting is excellent, but I suspect that they're very young ladies, and they would, once they get on them cruise ship, they ain't going to spending no money and nothing. The red carpet basically rolled upon them. But now JT, that's a crack a little joke with JT.
Watch it now, that's my boy. Can I crack him do what?
Yeah, I can do a little crack. You can imagine if the Cubans, for some unmistaken reason, tried to attack Bahamas again.
Yeah.
And all the fellas on the Marine could grab with the fly fishing rod.
Well, we got 20mm cannons on most of our ships now, so watch it now.
That's it. Yeah, but JT want to learn fly fishing. See, when JT can understand the fellas, they're Marines, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They got a different agenda altogether.
Yeah, they got a different
agenda. But it wouldn't hurt, though. It wouldn't hurt for them to parallel both. While they are on their agenda, they could also be certified, because at some point these guys are going to retire.
Yeah, but when retirement looking around the corner, then you could probably start to ferry those guys.
No, man, it's too late. The granddaddies, when they're ready to retire, you don't want them to start sailing then. Not on commercial ships.
Oh, well, like they said, like you said, they go to sea. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you what happened to me.
Peter Patton and all them fellas, them who was on the defense force, them fellas gone into private yachting and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Eventually some of them, right? Because when I was sent from the defense force, I was seconded to the port department as deputy port controller. I found out then, although I did 13 years of sailing every single patrol boat defense force had up until the time I left in 1994, right? I was captain of every single one of them. I was not qualified to take a ferry boat from Nassau to Paradise Island because I had no commercial license. I'm telling you that those are facts. But that's the never be, eh?
I kind of understand what you're feeling, because I took my captain's A-Masters exams and the captain Avalou was I trained.
Yeah. Bill is the man. Bill Williamson and Vimal Black and them. They're the fellas who really been out there and doing these things, I call them the pace setters.
Yeah. But I just got the throw my little contribution.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for that contribution, and we're going to keep the show rolling on. So just keep in touch, man. I hear your voice for a little while. Don't get shy on me.
Yeah, right here. Recovering from a broken leg, man.
Oh, sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah.
So it's healing up okay?
Yeah, man.
Okay. Well, you keep it together, man, and we'll keep in touch. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, man.
Roger. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on with Captain Prince. That was a very good suggestion. And I am not going to rest that idea aside, where defense force quite technically should, before they make somebody a captain of any vessel, they're supposed to make sure that the person have the commercial certification to drive a commercial vessel that size. And not only the captain of the vessel, the mate, we call him EXO, or executive officer, the mate should also be qualified to be a mate on a vessel that size. Hey? And that's how this thing works. And at the end of the day, it's going to pay off for every person, because everybody on board the vessel, even if you're an able seaman, or if you are seaman forming part of the navigation, because those guys do watches when they're at sea all the time. And if you're forming part of that watch, you have certification that you should have commercially, so that when you retire and leave the Defense Force, you're certified to go in the marine, merchant marine field and get a job. You're certified to go on the MIB, and that's where we start. We start by the organizations that we have control over. This is where we start. Anyway, we could talk about that for years. Let's go back to Mr. Valentino Monroe and his achievements over 2 years. Right? He's now doing 3 trips to Andros, North, South, and Central every week. And again, I was saying that there are a litany of other vessels that are also going to various parts of Andros. So he's not the only one, but he's making it work, and it's working out well as far as he's concerned, according to his submission. His vision is to service all of Andros directly from Florida. You know what that means? That means that instead of the Betty K and the tropical shipping and the mail boat and all them bringing all the stuff into Nassau, and then they got to go on the mail boat to go to the family island, you will have your stuff on a weekly basis directly out of Florida straight to your settlement, or straight to the dock in the area where North, Central, and South Andros. So what he could do is he could do once a month maybe. When he's going directly to the States, he have a shipping address that you could go online now and order your stuff and send it to that shipping address. And he containerized them and he put them on, because this is a container vessel, right? Yeah? And he bring everything and just drop the containers where they need to go. They already have them categorized, so that he know everything in these 3 containers is for Drake Hill. Everything in those for Fresh Creek. Everything in those ones there for Morgan's Bluff. And then the 3 stops. And he just stopped to Morgan's Bluff on his way down and let off those 4 containers. Go to Fresh Creek, let off the next 6. Then he go to South Andros and let off the last 3. And then he go back to Nassau and start his mail run again. And this is the vision. And this vision is nothing new, you know. It's just that he is now carpe diem. He's grasping the opportunity to do this. And the whole Andros will be covered. But he's stopping there. Valentino, and I don't know Valentino, by the way. I don't even know what he look like. If I say him, I don't know that's Valentino. Right? But I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm reading. I like his view. Because he and I share the same vision. I say he want to take the vessel to Florida and come off and drop to those 3 points on Andros. And that's only a 2-day trip. Clear the warehouse, drop them off. And he also want to take this to Exuma, Eleuthera, and guess where else? New Providence. So we on to something here, you know, because that's only one of the vessels. What about all of those mail boats we got carrying mail by the government? What you call it when they assist you with the government mail bag is assisting you in buying your fuel or maintaining your boat or whatever. And why is it that all of y'all got to be piling up at Porter's Key in Nassau to go to the various family islands? Why y'all can't be coming straight out of Florida and going to those islands? Well, I know why, right? A major part of the reason why, first of all, you limit your thoughts, right? Because G&G Shipping is doing it. And they don't need to be doing it. They're doing it because nobody else doing it. They ain't getting no mail bag, and it's working for them. Because these people on the family islands have computers just like us in Nassau. They can shop online just like us in Nassau. All they need is a location to send their stuff to, and know that once you go there, they're going to come on their mail boat once a month. And that's more than enough. That's where we need to go with shipping in this country. Because most of the stuff that is shipped here to go to farm, man, Porter's Keys be a mess, especially on Tuesdays, especially on Monday. My dear caller, please, when you get the first opportunity to drive onto Porter's Key Dock on a Tuesday between the hours of 9 and 12, or say 10 and 12, or Monday, any time of the day, and look at the volume of cargo being taken from stores in Nassau on board those mailboats to take to the family islands. That's two costs now. First of all, I got to come to Nassau, then again to the family island. But if your mailboat is going straight out of the States and coming to you once a month, you could do your bulk shopping directly online. You don't even have to travel. So, Brother Valentino Monroe, my hat's off to you, my friend, because you on to something that I've been preaching for a while. And most of the mailboat owners know me, and they know that I've been preaching this to them. You see the grain boats that go to Abaco? They was doing this now for years. And the whole country could have that going on. And there's no reason why it shouldn't happen. Eh? You just need to get your vessel Caribbean coded. Now, some of the vessels may be too shabby, so let's do away with them. Let's upgrade and decentralize all of the stuff coming into Nassau to go to family islands. Nassau still need a lot of stuff, and they can still get their stuff. But now, once you're doing that, you could also bring stuff to Nassau. Eh? I will tell you some secrets that I can't say on air right now, but we have to get to that eventually. Where we could clear outside of Nassau too. And then when we come to Nassau, bring the stuff to Nassau. We need to move to this. We got to stop being held hostage in this country. The time has come to do away with all those international freighters servicing the islands of the Bahamas and use local owned vessels that are Caribbean coded to service the Bahamas out of Florida. Okay, I'm running a little hot now, so I think I get to take a first break. I didn't know all this time gone already. Almost an hour and gone. I only get half hour left. Mr. Producer, something ain't right, man. The time gone too fast. Anyway, we're going to take our first break right here, ladies and gentlemen. And when we get back, we'll continue on with the rest of our hot topic. Boy, I know how much of this we can get in. But we get some resorts in Andros. They want to bring in some people. We still got the Shantytown situation going on. Have we started to move them yet? I know the building regulations asked if we could move them. Have we started to move them yet? The world's largest cruise ship, the Icon of the Seas, we will talk a little about that. They have this big migrant boat with hundreds of people fair dead in the Mediterranean Sea. Will we get to talk about that? And then, the Italian force. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we now move to our first break. You are listening to Maritime Matters. Thank you so much.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. You are listening to Maritime Matters. Before I go any further, let me just big up my good auntie up in Freeport, Auntie May. 90 years and moving. Good night to you, Auntie May. I don't know if you're still up and alive. I know it was getting a little technical earlier, and you don't like when I get too technical, but we got to do these sometimes. I say to you, good night, and continue listening to Maritime Matters. Continue being the #1 fan. And I say good night to all of you lovely fans out there. I know who you are. You know who you are. We got people who listen to the show religiously. We got people who give me feedback all the time. And yes, thank you so much for continuing to keep Maritime Matters alive. So, we are now talking about a couple of resorts on the island of Andros. We got the Kamalami Key Resort. And they're saying that they need more people. And Kamalami Key is in North Andros. It's about an hour or so out of Morgan's Bluff, on the main highway. Lovely resort. Today they are doing well. Tomorrow they can be doing so much more if we move forward and make Morgan's Bluff a cruise ship destination. When are we going to do this? It's a low-hanging fruit, people. We don't need to do much. All we need to do is a little dredging, not much dredging, because that could hold those big, huge water tankers. Right? So it's already 28, 29 feet deep. Clearing barrens, all the way from the ocean all the way to the dock. They got a small turning area in there, but it's not a real turning basin. But that could easily be sucked out and dredged to a good 40 feet. The whole clearing could be just 10 feet more. That's not much to do in the grand scheme of things. Because now you can have 2 large cruise ships that can actually go in no matter what the weather is and be protected. And you can imagine 2, even 1 large cruise ship today is 5,000-6,000 passengers. You can imagine 5,500 to 6,000 people. And crews another 1,500 or so. So you're talking 6,000-7,000 people coming into Morgan's Bluff. Kamalami Key, you will have tour after tour after tour. People, you get tired of seeing people coming there. And of course, once they see the resort, they want to come back, So you think you need people now. You have to be doing expansions and all the rest. And then we may have 1 or 2 more like you pop up just to accommodate this type of thing. Once we get that Morgan's Bluff set up properly for receiving those cruise ships and they start to come in, you can imagine the tours that we could have in North Andros. North Andros ain't as reaching out. North Andros ain't like Freeport, but they ain't got much history. Neither South Andros, neither Central Andros. All of them got the history like Nassau. Well, maybe not as colorful as Nassau, because Nassau was always the city. But how about some catch the crab tours? You know how much people go back home just to do tours and taking people to catch crab? You know how much money you could make off that? Plus you keep the crab? The sponging and red base. Okay, that's an hour away. But guess what? When you reach there, it's a different world. We could do tours to red base just to show people the sponges in the water, how to catch them, let them snorkel the sponges, let them see how they just clean them and harvest them. And ain't much places in the world that do this. So there again, we get the red base sponging tours. All of this because the cruise ship is now coming to Morgan's Bluff, Come on, Mr. Government, I want you to get with this. Water tours, water transport tours. In other words, very few years ago, we've been barging water from North Andros to Nassau because Nassau couldn't make water fast enough. Our water table wasn't big enough to facilitate all of what's going on in Nassau. And then technology wasn't at the stage yet where reverse osmosis can be so lucrative and so fluent that you could just use the seawater and have enough water for these mega resorts. And so even some of our residential areas, you realize we're doing reverse osmosis is the main way of providing water to Nassau right now because of the advancement in technology. But we still have all those pumps, those wells, because North Andros have a very large, compared to other islands in the Bahamas, a very large water table with thousands and thousands of gallons of water. And it's already set up where water is being extracted. These things could be preserved, and we could have tours on how Nassau used to get its water. We call them water transport tours, eh? So that's 3 tours we got now, just because the cruise ship there in the Morgan's Bluff. Catch the crab tours, red bay sponging tours, water transport tours. We could do deep sea fishing. Man, they got the Great Barrier Reef right outside of Morgan's Bluff. That's where it starts, eh? I wouldn't talk, but, well, we could do deep sea fishing. We could do fly fishing, bone fishing, because the Joltis Keys are within minutes from Morgan's Bluff by fast boat, little skiff. And they can be through the Joltis Keys doing fly fishing and that type of thing. And snorkeling. Come on. Plus you can have tours going across the ocean right there, the little stretch ocean to Chubkey, where they have more resorts. Where you could do more fly fishing and snorkeling, and you could do a day away at Chubkey. Nice restaurant, get yourself a good meal, and there's so much potential in having that cruise ship go into Morgan's Bluff, even if it's 1 ship a day, even if it's 1 ship a week. And you'll be amazed to know what that does. Tranquil beaches. You could pick your own private beach. You know how much beaches in North Andros? In Andros in general, it's the biggest island. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move to getting Morgan's Bluff a cruise ship destination. Not only for cruise ships, because when we dredge that out, we're also making way for those cargo ships to be coming directly out of Florida, and they could clear at Morgan's Bluff. They need to come to Nassau just to clear to go to other islands. Clear right to Morgan's Bluff. Most of them got to pass Morgan's Bluff. You come through Northwest Channel Light and you're coming up to get through the chain from Florida, because of course you come across from Florida, you either do North Rock or you do Great Isaacs or you do Cat Key, according to what your draft is. And you come across Russell Beacon and Mackey Shoal, and then you come through Northwest Light, and then you're in the Tonga Ocean. What's the nearest point from there? Chubkey to your left, Morgan's Bluff to your right. So you clear Morgan's Bluff, make that a big clearance port for Bahamian vessels coming out of Florida, and then you keep going and take up the rest of anywhere in the Bahamas from there, because you don't clear. We don't have to duplicate efforts in all of these different. Well, of course, you got the option if you want to clear somewhere else, because they get customs officers all over the country, eh? And that's why they're there. So there you go. We're gonna make some things happen in North Andros by way of bringing cruise ships in Morgan's Bluff, and we're going to strengthen Kamalami Key and all those other resorts that can facilitate people. We're going to get a lot of Androsians to go back home to facilitate this cruise ship, because there's so much to do and so much money to make, eh? We talk about the government removing those shanty towns. My goodness, 20 minutes left. How are we going to do this? Government need to remove those shanty towns, eh? And it must have been about 6 weeks ago, the Attorney General, Ryan Pinner, said the Davis administration would demolish shantytown structures using the process outlined in the Buildings Regulation Act after the Supreme Court failed to deliver favorable results to the government when they did that about 6 weeks ago, eh? So we remember how excited we were, right? When this happened, just under 2 months ago. We were very excited because now the government don't need to get the court approval to do no shanty down, because the Buildings Regulation Act already say if it ain't built up to that act, the government have the authority to break it down. But have we broken down any of them as yet? Not even one? What about the two that the court order could have been broken down in Abaco? Well, you know they said rescue, but two could have been broken down. Did we broke those two down? I don't know what's going on. Slackness pile up like that. When are we going to take the first one down? Based on the Attorney General saying that we can use the process outlined in the Buildings Regulation Act to take these structures down. Excuse me. I'm not going to let that one go. We want to see the first one come down, and then we know the communities will fall after. The domino effect. Let's see one come down. Mr. Ryan Pinder, the Attorney General, and let's make this government continuous with efforts like this. If the administration changes, this mandate don't change. This ain't get nowhere to go. We don't realize we can do this now. So let's get it started and let's keep it going. Now we're moving on to the world's largest cruise ship, the Icon of the Seas. The Icon of the Seas, you know, there's 250,000 gross tons. Let me give you a perspective. Back in the day when we had the Dolphin and the Festival and those cruise ships that used to come to Prince George Dock in the 70s, right? They carried like anywhere between 1,500 and 2,500 passengers. And as you could see, they was small. It wasn't these big, highfalutin, powerful stuff. And all of them used to use tugboats because they didn't even have bow thrusters in those days, eh? They just had the old 2 engines and that's it. So, those were around, I'd say, 10,000 gross tons, if all of that. Anywhere between 8 and 15,000 gross tons, for those type cruise ships. And when we leapfrog, or frog leap, into the 90s, where we had, well, actually late 80s, early 90s, where we Carnival came up with the fantasy class ships. And we know the Carnival Fantasy and Ecstasy and those type ships. And you know how much gross tons they were? They were like 70,000 gross tons. And they carried like anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000 passengers and then another 1,000 crew. But that was the big thing. Because now those vessels, they stop us from needing tugboats. Because they have 3 bow thrusters in the bow and 3 bow thrusters in the stern. So the ship could actually move sideways when it get in the harbor to go to the dock. And it could spin on a dime and do all the rest of that good stuff. And the pilots had to up their game because they ain't never had this kind of luxury, right? And things just started to change. But those ships were around for many years as the supreme cruise ships. But they were only 70,000 gross tons. And then Disney decided in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, that they're going to get in the game. Look, man, we got this Disney resort, all these people. We're going to have cruise ships where they come and the families come aboard with the children. We'll have Mickey and Minnie doing things, but we'll have some nice cruise ships. And then they made those two, what was the Disney Magic and what the other one was. Anyway, the Magic and the Wonder. Was it Disney Wonder? I think it was Disney Wonder and Disney Magic, right? And those two were larger than the regular cruise ships. As a matter of fact, when they were made, they were the biggest in the world. They were 86,000 gross tons, almost 100,000 gross tons. And then a couple short years later, they started to make them over 100,000 gross tons. The Carnival Liberty and some of those vessels, they were over 100,000 gross tons. So see, we start from the little 10, 15,000 gross tons. Now we're over 100,000 gross tons. And then Carnival decided to make some over 150,000 gross tons. And of course, Royal Caribbean had a problem with that. Royal Caribbean decided, we are going to break the barrier of 200,000 gross tons. That's when they made the Oasis. The Oasis of the Seas, some 223,000 gross tons. Largest ship ever built, cruise ship. These things is like twice the size of the Titanic, eh? So I don't want you all to think Titanic was so big when you're talking about these new ships. So from 222 to 23,000 gross tons with the Oasis, and what else the ship was? Well, it was the Oasis class. Every time they make one, they added a couple gross tons onto it, so it could be this is now the biggest in the world, this is now the biggest. And then they went through the Oasis class with about 6 ships. And now, they moved the bar again. And they moved the bar to 250,000 gross tons. 250,000 gross tons, 250,000. It's 250,800. Just to make sure they well within the 250,000 gross tons. The first ship ever to be this large. That, my friend, is the icon of the seas. And she is going to be the only one that size. She's the first in class. So they can make quite a few big, huge ones like that. And then I don't want you to think Carnival will be left out of this forever. Carnival have yet, although they're the largest cruise ship company in the world, they have yet to make a cruise ship that passes the 200,000 gross tonnage mark. Well, that's what I believe, and I think I'm right on that. But we got some people who know a little more, and then I didn't do the full research on Carnival, but I can tell you, they are going to come. And all the cruise ship companies, Norwegian Cruise Line, have to do the same thing. We already see, what the one is an Ocean Key, they doing some big things with their ships, pretty big ships, MSC cruises. So, it's on, people. It's on. Now I move to my next story. Boy, we leave out a lot of things tonight, eh? I haven't even told you about who my producer was. Lord Craig, sorry about that. Craig Gibson is my producer, ladies and gentlemen. He's here to rescue me at all times. He's here to keep me stable. Because, when I run out, I need somebody. Only me and Craig is being here, so. Craig got me covered. Let's move on to our next topic. Because we can miss out a lot tonight. Since we only got 10 minutes left. Hundreds fear dead in migrant boat sinking off Greece. Did you get that story? They rescued about 104 people up to the point of this report, which is about 4 or 5 days old. Eh? I'm sure I hope they rescued more by now. They had 78 bodies confirmed dead. But how many people did they actually have on that ship? Ladies and gentlemen, before I go any further, let me just give you the number to call again, eh? Because some people say, oh, you ain't giving the number, you call the number once and you ain't never call it back no more. 326. Let's get it right now, Glenn. I must be getting tired, eh? 326-8255. The number to call if you want in on this discussion tonight is 326-8255. You're listening to Maritime Matters. As you know, on this show, we talk maritime.
At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you.
So I'll read from the feed. About 104 people have been rescued. 78 have been confirmed dead. Hundreds more are missing after large migrant vessel capsized off the southern coast of Greece. See, they're coming from Greece now. We said that they coming out of what that country named Gaddafi's country, Libya, most of the time, the northern coast. Then they move a little west to Tunisia, Tunis, and they're just trying to get across to either Italy or Greece. This one got all the way to Greece, right? Or off Greece, southern coast. They were almost there. But this was a huge ship. And more than likely, they probably came out of Tunisia, right? Because Tunisia is a little more west and closer to Greece than the other ones. The vessel was underway on a voyage of illegal migration from, Tobruk, Libya. So I take that back. This one here from Tunisia, this one from Libya. They still moving out of Libya. From Libya, moving to Italy. On Tuesday morning at about 0800, and that's just this Tuesday past. Last week Tuesday, The Italian rescue authorities contacted the Hellenic Coast Guard to report the movements of the migrant boat. The Greek agency reports that it offered assistance, but that the migrant vessel declined help and said that it wanted to continue on with Italy. So what the Greeks wanted to do is help them to go back to Libya. But what do you think they come that far to go back? No man, big money being made up in here. So a couple hours later, because this is 8 o'clock in the morning, 12:17, which is 4 hours later, the vessel issued a distress signal, and a merchant ship responded. The Good Samaritan ship passed over water, but the migrant boat's operator expressed concern that the situation could deteriorate with fights on board and navigated away from the responding ship. So apparently the migrant ship people was fighting each other. So the Good Samaritan vessel went to assist them, decided, I can't get in this. They fighting and thing on board, I go there, they may take over my ship. Right? Because you guys remember, these are desperate people. They're out in that rough water and the ship's face had been sunken, eh? So they say a Hellenic helicopter. Now this is the Hellenic Coast Guard in Greece. One of their helicopters, one of their Coast Guard vessel monitored the migrant boat from a distance from 1940, that's 7:40 p.m. onwards, and at 22:40, that's 10 o'clock p.m. in the night, the migrant boat reported that its engine had failed. So here it is, in that rough water, bouncing up and down on this ship loaded with people. Now the engine stopped, so they even ain't moving forward no more, eh? Less than half an hour later, which is 23:04, 11 o'clock in the night, it capsized and sank in a position about 50 miles off whatever this is. I don't want us. Peloponnese, right? That's obviously somewhere in Greece. About 100 people were pulled from the water and transferred to shore at Kalamata, wherever that is, I assume in Greece again. According to the Hellenic Coast Guard, none had life jackets. So when we have our situation here in Nassau with our migrant vessels, this is a very similar situation, but this one have way more. This had over 700 people, eh? 750 people were reported to have been on board this vessel. So if they only find 100 or so, that's some 500-600 that, well, they found a couple bodies already. 500-600 that should be, at this point, them just dead. One survivor alleged that the migrant boat had been under tow by a Coast Guard vessel at the time of the capsizing. So the Atlantic Coast, so they did actually send a vessel out then and was trying to help them. But, of course, they still tipped over, eh? This account is not reflected in the official version and could not be confirmed. Now, maybe the vessel wanted to take them back. I don't know. We ain't got no details on that, so let's don't speculate on that, eh? As of Thursday, a large-scale search continued in hopes of finding more survivors. I just think on Tuesday, 2 days later, they're still looking for survivors. Very unlikely, eh? They're in the Mediterranean Sea, which is pretty deep. It ain't ocean, but it's pretty deep. 1 patrol boat, 1 cutter, a frigate, 9 Good Samaritans, and 2 helicopters are engaged in the effort. So you got a whole flotilla. You got a patrol boat out there, 2 patrol cutters, a frigate. A frigate is a warship, right? This beyond the Coast Guard, not as the Navy. 9 Good Samaritans. In other words, 9 people out there in their own private boat, and 2 helicopters out there looking on an ongoing basis, and probably still there, just hoping they'll see somebody still living, floating or something, or whatever. Any life saved is worth the effort. Ain't nothing like being on the sea and you're just hoping somebody rescue you because you're still living. You ain't no good shape, but you're still living. So the boat's decks were fully occupied by people, but according to the survivors, hundreds more were below decks, including about 100 children. That's rough, eh? That's rough. So it's suggested that as many as 600 may have died in the casualty. And this is Maritime Feed. This ain't Glenn Bain saying this stuff. Well, it's coming through Glenn Bain mouth, but I am reading this. And they go on to say something very, very interesting. And again, my show with this, because we only got 2 minutes left. The fare, or the cost to take the people, the fare for the transit was reportedly in the range of $5,000 per migrant. So you do the maths. 5,000 times 750. Suggesting a $3 million plus revenue opportunity for the smugglers. So that one trip from Libya to Greece, and I assume they've already been paid, $3 million. And then we got people coming through all the time. You think they're coming through free? No, man, big money in this thing. But they be putting people's lives at risk and they ain't checking. 11 individuals have been arrested on charges of helping to orchestrate the voyage. So when they find survivors, they question them and they get to add things up. And so far, they were able to arrest 11. And with that, I got to rest my case. Ladies and gentlemen, we're fresh out of time. You're listening to Maritime Matters. We air weekly at 7:30 every Tuesday on Love 97 FM. So please do get us next week and the week after that and the week after that. We will go on with some more international stuff. We'll go on with some more domestic stuff. And we want you to be a part of the discussion. And if you just want to listen, feel free. Listen. We're happy with that. And I always tell my good Auntie May up in Freeport, Auntie May, thank you for continuing listening. I know you done past 90, but guess what? We want you to stay on board. You just stay with us and let's keep rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, my sponsors for the night, One-on-One Pharmacy. You know the deal with them. My good cousin Shantia McBride and a team of excellent workers. Our mommy Stephanie's up in Freeport dealing with the Island Care Pharmacy. So we got One-on-One Pharmacy now spitting out Island Care Pharmacy, and they keep this show going. Along with Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. We do the full slate of ISPS security services. You call on us, we're there for you. With that said, I thank you, my dear listeners, for continuing to listen. And until next week, Maritime Matters out.
I'll be